They arrived laughing, as people in horror stories always do. Five college friends hoping for a weekend of beer, freedom, adrenaline, and dumb dares. Dylan carried the cooler. Mara filmed TikToks. Theo cracked jokes without fear. Jade rolled her eyes at everything supernatural. And Connor pretended to be the brave one, the one who feared nothing. The woods swallowed their voices the moment they passed the rusted iron gate. The tree line beyond it was unervingly still, as if the forest itself had signed an agreement to silence. No birds, no breeze, no rustling. Just the crackle of their tires dragging them deeper toward a small, crooked wooden structure hidden in forest shadow. Cedar cabin leaned slightly to the right, like an old puzzle piece forced into the wrong place. It smelled wrong: too wet iron, rotten leaves, damp fur, and something else, a scent fleshy and sour, like blood wiped unsuccessfully from the cracks of a butcher's floor. Connor joked it was authentic horror ambience. Jay did not smile. Theo dared Dylan to open the cellar door first, but the swell wooden hatch refused him. Instead, Dylan picked the ritual book resting on the dusty poker table. It looked like a horror prop cliché. Heavy, leather-bound, engraved in a language that shouldn't exist, edges stained dark like what was once liquid, once warm. Theo read from it aloud, not because he believed in it, but because ridicule tastes sweeter when disbelief is loud. The syllables were thick with a guttural cadence that felt like swallowing a screw, like speaking with a mouth already full of clotted blood. The candles nearby exploded into flames simultaneously, glass jars snapping from sudden heat, fire racing across wood grain like fingers finding veins. Everyone yelled. Not in excitement now, but alarm. Mara smashed the jars into the sink. The flames died only after licking the wood twice, leaving black scorch marks shaped eerily like sigils. Jade's teeth chattered. She felt a metallic taste in the air. She suddenly realized the book wasn't just aesthetic. It was instruction, contract, trigger. The cellar doors groaned and unlocked themselves immediately after the candles died, easing open as if expecting descent. Connor grabbed the flashlight. Dylan followed, still filming. Below, the basement was stone-lined and older than the cabin should reasonably be. They saw a woman crouched in the far left corner, completely still. Her body was a canvas of smeared red, hair matted like soaked rope, lips cracked like drought-skinned earth. She slowly raised her head. Her eyes were a glossy, cataract-white swirl, but her teeth were sharp, clean, purposeful. When she smiled, it tore wider than her face should structurally allow. She whispered their names upward: Dylan, Connor, Mara, Theo, Jade, like reading inventory. The woman's body trembled into violent motion, skin rippling like boiling plastic. She arched backwards so violently her spine popped, splitting audibly like snapping a thick wet branch. Her stomach swelled grotesquely, bulging upward, stretching skin thin like translucent bloom petals. And then she split open, not artistically, not eerily, but catastrophically. A flood of organs spilled from inside her body like heavy, wet cables hitting stone. Its single massive eye peeled open with a membrane-tearing wet sound. It focused instantly. Ancient sentience. Algorithmic hunger. It grabbed Theo first, hoisting him upward like ragdoll wheat. Theo clawed at its eyes, screaming obscenities, denial turning the blood fog around him. It bit his arm off at the shoulder in one sheer chomp, chewing once, dropping the bone aside like chalk debris. The blood burst was immediate, terrifying, pressurized. Mara scrambled toward the window, slipping in red, foot skidding through gore-like paint. Connor ran into the creature mid-fall, but he was swatted aside like cardboard hitting a hurricane. The monster punched a hole through the basement ceiling, one upward strike cracking wood and skull decor simultaneously. Connor slammed open the fuel shed door outside, igniting alcohol with a match, throwing bottles like Molotov constellations, each arc sloppy, desperate, but meaningful. Bottles burst across the creature's back, fire ripping into scars, flesh blistering like volcanic sheeting. The creature roared so deeply, the trees shuddered and cabin glass burst inward, shards raining like razors flints in the air. Connor collapsed, antler fragments impaling backward into him. Jay grabbed the gun they found hung in the shed. Dylan torched gas lines. They ran. Because there are thresholds you cannot reason or invert once crossed. Once signed, once read aloud by someone who assumed ridicule equals immunity. The woods followed slowly, not in motion, but observation. Fire melted Carmen's outer flesh layers like dying tectonic plates as the creature crawled after them. Jade fired 3 times. Hits landed, but the trajectory felt irrelevant. Bullets disturbed tissue, not agreements. Dylan carried Jade as Connor bled out, Whisper laughing that they fit every trope athlete, skeptic virgin archetype by coincidence, fool by choice, jester by denial, but the force had trophies, not cliches. Connor smiled through blood, saying something colder was stirring beneath the altar now, something unimpressed by quotas, schedules, or ritual archetypes, something rising in older hunger. Jade sobbed that Connor was dying. Dylan and Jay collapsed onto the map highway, only because survival wasn't reward, it was oversight. The forest let them leave because survivors aren't escapees. They're recruitment posters, legends, warnings, bait. The sirens heard the fire first, bodies later. Only for names, only for another group laughing too loudly around a fire in another cabin, swallowed by forest silence, signed in human blood. Delivered by curiosity, collected by ancient gnashing hunger. Because some nightmares don't need fuel, they only need voice. And survivors, when they exist, become the legend whispered next. Not the escape, not the victory, just the prologue. I started streaming to make rent. Nothing special, just gaming, reacting to memes, talking shit with chat. One night, 3 a.m., I had maybe 30 viewers. Normal for a nobody like me. Then a new name joined. Your name here, no profile picture. No messages, just watching. Chat thought it was funny. Bro, your biggest fan has your name LO. I laughed it off, kept playing. 10 minutes later, the same account tipped $50 with the message. Look behind you. I turned. Nothing. Just my dark hallway. Chat spam skull emojis. I told them to fuck off and kept streaming. But 30 minutes later, the account tipped again. Another $50. Same message. Look behind you. This time when I turned, I saw it. A shape in the hallway. Tall. Thin. Standing perfectly still at the edge of the light. I blinked and it was gone. Chat was losing it. Fake. Acting. 10-10 scare. I told myself it was paranoia. Lack of sleep. But the usual streamer curse. At 4:17 a.m., your name here ticked $100. The message read, I'm closer now. I spun around so fast my chair almost tipped. The hallway was empty. But my bedroom door, the one behind me, the one that's always closed every stream, was cracked open. I never leave it open. Chat was typing so fast the overlay couldn't keep up. I tried to laugh, but my throat was dry. I stood up, walked to the door, and pushed it all the way open. Empty. I went back to my desk. The viewer count had jumped to 400, then 1,000, then 10,000. All from one account sharing the link somewhere. Your name here tipped again. $500 this time. The message was my full government name, my address, and the words, "Stop looking at me through the camera. I don't like it." I ended the stream. But the screen didn't go black. It showed my room from the corner, the one I don't have a camera in. And standing behind my chair was that tall, thin shape, watching me watch it. I yanked every cable out of my PC. The monitor went dead. My phone buzzed. A notification from Twitch. Your name here started a stream. Watching him realize. I opened it. It was my bedroom. Love. From the ceiling. My empty chair and frame. Then I walked in the shot. Except I was still holding my phone in the living room. The me on stream sat down, looked straight into the lens, and smiled with too many teeth. The real me threw up. Last thing I remember is the chat scrolling. He's better than you. New host looks promising. Old one got boring. The stream's still up. 3.2 million followers now. Sometimes late at night, the account Your Name Here tips $1 with a new address. They say if you watch long enough, it learns your name too. The group found the bunker door beneath the abandoned hospital by accident while filming a ghost hunt documentary. The hospital's architecture made no sense: hallways splitting like veins, staircases that led to identical floors, and generator rooms hidden behind children's murals. The mural animals always looked slightly different when revisited, smiling wider, watching longer. Ethan pried open the bunker door. It exhaled a cold chemical fog, laced with the stink of rot. A hallway stretched ahead with tiles painfully white and sterile compared to the ruin above. Motion sensors clicked awake under their feet, tracking each step. "Maybe a lab," Camila whispered. "Maybe a trap," Mark answered, gripping his shotgun. No one laughed. They reached a control room lined with glass observation panels. Inside sat containment cells. In each cell, something wore a human shape the way a butcher wears gloves, skin sagging, eyes milky, crooked smiles twitching like dying light bulbs. They slammed into the glass, silent. Not because they didn't scream, but because the room devoured sound. A microphone icon blinked red on a recording terminal. Camila pressed it. The speakers blew static, then a monotone voice spoke. "Protocol breached. Specimens release. Select containment response." Ethan tapped the monitor displaying a holographic menu of horrors. Infected dog pack, forest hag hive, the butcher twins, crow spine worm, black root possession, corpse choir, the red queen override. "What the hell is this?" he choked. The monster selection screen, Mark realized. The system wasn't built to keep horrors locked inside. It was built to pick which horror hunted the ones who opened it. Alarms erupted, not loud, but felt a vibration drilling through bone. The cell doors unlocked everywhere. The silent things poured out, bodies cracking, splitting, mutating mid-dash, some sprouting crow-like spines, others dissolving into worm ropes that knitted flesh together. The glass itself recoiled like it was alive. Ethan mashed a random option to close the system. Black root possession selected. The lights went green-black. Vines punched through the walls. Not plants' nerves. The hallway throbbed. A second later, Mark dropped to his knees, arteries bulging ink dark. His jaw unhinged as a writhing root coiled from his throat, splitting into tendrils that puppeteered his limbs upright. His silhouette jerked upright, body no longer his, head snapping 180, smiling perfect teeth that weren't there before. Camila fired. No sound. Only recoil and spray blood splattering upward toward the ceiling, sucked in by the breathing walls. Ethan and Camila ran, but the exit sealed. The vines had grown a new door. Marked staff only. Specimens leave here. Camila glanced at Ethan's neck. Thin black roots already branching under his skin like a signature. He was being filled silently, rewritten quietly. "The hospital picks with genres," she sobbed. And today we're the finales. Twist. The horrors weren't contained. They were cataloged for release, and the hospital itself is a curator that writes the ending by possession rate. The jungle was alive long before we called it alive. Long before names like explorers, villages, or maps ever carved lines across its ancient skin, the jungle already breathed its own rhythm-long, humid green breaths that expanded and contracted with the pulse of something unknowable. 4 of us entered the Dandakaranya forest region on a documentary trip. We were there to capture indigenous plant lore, nocturnal wildlife, and the layered orchestra of insects that sung like electricity in the air. But the deeper we moved, the more unnatural the harmony became. The cicadas chirped in patterns that felt almost coded. Birds perched above in the dense canopy stared without blinking. It felt like a cathedral built from vines, leaves, and witnessing eyes. We reached a clearing just before dusk, where sunlight slanted in copper beams. The ground was soft, layered with moss and decayed petals. Our tents were pitched, gear set, and cameras rolling. That first night was when the forest stopped being a subject and became a participant. Ragin, the sound technician, whispered that the mics were picking low-frequency pulses, too regular to be animal, too slow for machines. We dismissed it as a natural phenomenon. Arjun, the cameraman, laughed nervously, saying the jungle had its own heartbeat. But heartbeats don't echo back to you when you mimic them. Ragin tapped a steady pattern on the mic pole thump. Pause. Thump thump. A minute later, from the forest, we heard the exact pattern back thump, pause, thump thump. The sound didn't bounce like an echo. It answered like speech. Maya refused to sleep after that. She sat at the clearing edge with a flashlight, sweeping the undergrowth. The night meshes warped around every bush. We told her it was shadows. But shadows don't recoil from light like skin from fire. When her beam crossed a cluster of hanging fig roots, the darkness there shivered, retreated, then surged forward again once the light moved away. Around 2 a.m., she jolted us awake. On night vision, something tall hung upside down from a kapok branch, its limbs folded the wrong way. Its head was bald, smooth, elongated, like a doll that melted halfway in a kiln. Arjun grabbed his camera with shaking hands. The moment he aimed it, the thing snapped its neck upward, giving us the clearest look. Eyes round, glassy, wet black, reflecting green pinpricks like trapped stars. We ran, not heroically, not cinematically. We fled like prey, remembering the concept of a mouth. The jungle swallowed our panic instantly, padding every footstep in organic cotton. Ragin stumbled into a pit of leaves, and something grabbed his ankle-cold, dry, bony. He screamed only once. It yanked him sideways into a tangle of bamboo shadows. The bamboo rattled like 100 wooden wind chimes clacking in applause. We never saw him again. Morning came sticky and golden, as if nothing had happened, but the pit where he fell was now gone. The jungle had ironed the ground flat again. We found his mic pole later, planted upright like a shrine marker. The recorder was still on. It contained 8 hours of audio we never captured. It contained him breathing, then something else breathing over it, then silence, then textural sounds like skin tightening over wood. Then a voice layered like overlapping jaws whispered, "We were here first. We burned the recorder." But smoke rose in the same pattern as Rajan's answering taps. Thump, pause, thump thump. Even ash speaks the language you teach it.